Hey guys, I'm Mark,
I'm Alon.
and welcome to another episode of The Next Man Up. Well, welcome listeners once again to our podcast, The Next Man Up podcast. We are so excited that you are with us and honored that you are giving us some of your time today. We've got an insane story, an insane experience to share with you today. So hang on, we will get to that. I promise you. It's crazy. I experienced it, and I'm anxious to share that here. But before we do that, I gotta bring in my colleague and my partner, Alon. It's fantastic to see your eyes.
It's the eyes. It's always the eyes. What's up, Mark?
It's good. We've been able to figure this out through technology and working with two busy schedules. But it's fantastic to see you in the flesh today.
You too,
and,
friend.
Be able to make the eye contact. And
Yes.
It's always good. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Life is good. It's busy. It's wild, but that's life.
Yeah.
I'm doing well, man. It's good to see you, man.
Yes.
And it's good to be here with you in the physical, talking with our awesome people who are listening to us today.
Yeah. And, we'll invite our listeners once again. If you've got suggestions, comments, feedback, if you want to give us a hard time, politely and gently, of course, you can hit us up at feedback@thenextmanup.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can also check us out on our Facebook page, The Next Man Up 1, and engage with us. Let us know how this is resonating with you, and maybe even share some of your stories, whatever. We're just inviting your feedback so that we can better engage with you.
Yeah.
So, okay, with that, dude, this story was crazy.
Lay it on me.
So I've got to set some context here.
Okay.
So a friend of mine gave me a book recently called "How Full Is Your Bucket?" And the premise of this book is that we all carry these buckets around that represent our emotions, essentially. And the more full our buckets are of positive emotions that come from love and encouragement and affirmation, so on and so forth, the better we're able to show up in the world. And so it was like, that is the stage. And then the challenge was, be a bucket filler in whatever role you play. Don't be a bucket drainer, be a bucket filler. So you know this, I'm out and about meeting with people on a regular basis. Panera is my office away from home. And so I'm sitting in a Panera parking lot recently, finishing this book with these thoughts rolling through my mind. Be a bucket filler. And, that aligns fairly well with how I like to live. It wasn't, it was novel, but it wasn't new, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it was just another reminder and encouragement to be a bucket filler. So shut off the car, walk in, and I'm standing in line looking for the person that I was going to meet. We hadn't met before, so this was first time.
Okay.
And I'm standing in line, and I see her a couple people in front of me, and she goes up, gets her thing. We made eye contact. She's like, I'll go get us a table. And so I'm just working my way through the line, right? This is what we do. We stand in line. You know the drill.
Yep.
And off to the side, I see another lady, a guest, if you will, talking with an employee to the side of the counter. And I just noticed it didn't register anything other than there's a conversation taking place between a guest and an employee. Well, about the time I'm next to be served at the register, this guest slides right in front of me up to the counter. And I remember thinking, well, no big deal. The employee she was talking with probably just invited her to be next.
Sure,
and like, no big deal, right? Well, apparently for the dude behind me, it was a big deal. So I got to keep this clean, so I will abbreviate his colorful language. But he steps out from behind me and leans alongside of me, leading with his finger. So picture this guy pointing at this lady who had stepped up to the counter and said, "Excuse me, young lady, the line starts back here." And it was so forceful and out of place that I was for sure this lady was going to turn around and have this big smile on her face, like, "Oh, John, you're such a card. Good to see you." Right? Like this practical joke. Dude, she was horrified.
Oh, man.
She just melted, like pouring hot water over ice. She just melted, like out of the way. Just like if she could have blended into the furniture and the scenery, she would have.
She would have done it. Wow.
And I was so caught off guard. I turned around to look at this guy. Just like, do my eyes confirm what my ears just heard? I turned around to look at him, and he was resolute. He was a white male, maybe 70 plus or minus. Yeah. And he's like, "I do not tolerate that kind of BS. Ooh, I just don't put up with it." And he did not say BS. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah. Wow.
So in addition, the lady that he said this to, first of all, lady, second of all, she's black.
Yeah.
So all these thoughts are rolling through my mind. Like, what did she hear? What did he intend? What's wrong with this guy? And what I managed to get out was, I cannot believe how wildly inappropriate that was.
Yeah, yeah.
And he stood his ground. It's like he, body language, dug his heels in, and we had some banter back and forth, and the adrenaline was coursing through me. So I don't remember what all was said. I think at some point I said to him, "Are we really having this conversation?"
Yeah.
We're in the middle of the lobby of Panera in line.
Man, what are you doing?
Right. So here's where Jesus kind of took hold of me. As I'm processing what to do, I'm like, "You know what, Mark? Just step out of the way and let this guy have the next place in line." So I'm like, "You know what? I will serve you in this way. You can have my spot. You can go next." I stepped back, and he literally dug his heels in, folded his arms, and was like, "Nope, I'm not going to do that."
Wow.
So I stepped up and ordered my drink, and then spent the next half a day really processing what just happened.
Yeah.
So I'll stop the story there, and we can kind of get to reactions. But dude, I was shocked in many, many ways. I was shocked. I've never had anything like that happen to me. Huh. Or it wasn't to me, but like experienced it. And come to find out, the lady that he was barking at had some other challenges. Her emotional bucket was already running low.
Yeah, yeah.
His bucket, I don't, who knows the last time anything's been put into his bucket, right? Yeah. And these are the things that I'm processing afterward. In the moment, I'm like, this is injustice. I have to stand up for it. But having some time to think about it and process it later, I'm like, oh my gosh. I walk in with this idea of the power of being a bucket filler or a bucket drainer. And I'm witness to this incident. And now what do I do with it? How do I process it? What do I learn from that? Dude, it was the craziest thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah, it's so many ways we can go with that.
Right?
Yeah, so many ways to go with that. Those are moments that I think, like, for me are sitcom moments from like Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Or they're movie moments where, like you said, they're so weird and so out of place that your reaction is just, wow, really? Really, right here?
Right.
In the middle of Panera.
Right.
This is what we're going to do this morning. We can do anything else. Like, we can, like, I don't know, start a disco ball, like, party right in the middle of Panera. But this is how we're going to do our morning. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet in those moments, I think, I think there's a couple of things, I don't know, for me that kind of helped me calm, at least myself, and try to help the situation, which I think was for you is like, like, we've made it so cliche. What would Jesus do?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I think for me, it's more of like, I've been hanging around with you dudes long enough. Like what feels right here, and what doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, and also perspective is important too. Like I think, man, as a black man living in these United States of America, it can get really odd and really weird, and honestly, quite fearful at some points. I'm trying to make sure I use words carefully here because I don't know. I just want to use words carefully because this is a big subject. It's a tough subject, but it's also one that like I wrestle with back and forth when it comes to like racism or racial inequality or whatever you have here. But seeing that young lady had just gotten yelled and screamed at by an older white gentleman, I can't speak to her as a female how she would have felt, but as a black person in probably a predominantly white like spot, yeah, that's fearful and that's hard, and it hurts. You know what I mean?
Whether he intended it or not,
it's just the perspective.
She heard. I talked to her afterward. She didn't necessarily hear it this way, but she heard racism, and it's entirely possible she heard "go to the back of the bus."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether he intended that or not, that's how she interpreted the comment, and maybe that's what he intended. I don't know.
Perspective, man.
He bolted quickly, but you're right. It's perspective. Like she's interpreting what's being said through her lens, from her experience, from her past, her scars, whatever.
And that's why I think it's so good to be like a person who's just we can't do it all the time, man. I'm not mindful all the time, but it's good to be mindful of and thoughtful beyond yourself. But that takes like you getting to a place.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That just takes you getting to a place.
Right.
And like, perspective of this gentleman though is probably like, I'm thinking, this is injustice. Like you just cut me and another person in line.
Right.
And there's definitely a huge gap anyway between generations. And so I don't know how old she was, but she seemed like she
50-ish,
was
50-ish, plus or minus.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know how old he was. I don't know how she was. But when you said younger, and I'm thinking older gentleman, like there's a gap, man. And I talking with my folks and there's older guys that I hang with. There's definitely a sense of, you know what? Like I just feel like these younger folks they just do whatever they want to do, and they act like everything is handed to them, and like everyone is special, and everyone gets a reward, and everyone gets a prize. It's not that way, And so there's this perspective of how dare you like cut me in line, and I'm not dealing with this. I don't know. I'm just. This is from the story. This is what I'm getting.
I know. Yeah.
And so you have these two different like perspectives. And then here you are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like here you are. And so what do you do with that?
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's where it could get really tricky and trippy. I think it was right for you. For me, I think I would have turned around and said the same thing. I think I would have turned around and been like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like this is not a good look for you.
Yeah.
You're making yourself look very foolish right now. And you're adding to a stereotype that's just not correct. Like, stop it, man. Dude, go in front of me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Or, you know what I'm saying? And at least go, hey, honestly, let me take that all back. Cause I would have been the funny one. I would have turned around and been like, nah, she's with me.
Now the truth comes out. That was what you wanted people to hear.
Yeah. But I can see it like hindsight, but knowing me, I would have been like, nah, she's with me. Don't worry about it. She good.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was here. I was holding her spot. Yeah. She gave me $1. Told me I can. It was kind of like valet parking. She's good. She's with me. Yeah. Get me a Coke too. Right. I'll take a Coke too, and a coffee and a bagel.
Right.
Matter of fact, give me all the bagels. Like I would have made like a stupid, funny deal out of it just to show how like stupid that was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a stupid comment, and I don't know whether it's funny, whether taking a funny aim or taking the road of like, no, you're the one who's committing an injustice here. Either way, I would have tried to fill that girl's bucket.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because it didn't seem like she was in a good spot either.
She was not.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was already emotionally vulnerable. Yeah. And look, I know her name, and that's about all, right? So I don't know how many times something like that has happened to her. I don't know her story at all. I just got to witness this piece, and I'm like, that's not right.
Yeah.
It's just not right. It's not right.
Do you think, well, because you just don't know where anybody's at. We don't share life with each other that closely.
So that right there, I think, is a profound statement, right? Like, you have to be secure in who you are.
Yeah.
It's secure in your identity, or at least aware enough that there's always more to the story. There's always something that you don't know. There's another perspective. Walk a mile in a person's shoes, right? To be able to make the statement that you just made, it indicates where you are as a person. It's a profound statement. I don't want to diminish just that statement that you made. Yeah,
it's like with that in mind, we're talking about, like, in the case of, like, full bucket, empty bucket, filling buckets or not filling buckets. Man, I'm wondering where that guy was.
Yeah.
Like, what was going on in his heart and in his mind? What has been going on in his life, whether it's been a day or decades, like, that brought you to a place where you were willing to, like, die on this hill,
right?
for a line in Panera,
right?
Like, for a line in Panera, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but something must have been going on, and it's important to him. You know what I'm saying? It's important enough for him to like raise his voice and yell at somebody that he doesn't know. And we all do it, right? I mean, a person cuts us off in line or cuts us off in a car. Like, oh yeah, man, dude.
From the safety of our own vehicle, we do it.
Right. I don't know, man.
You're not the guy that rolls down your window and
I'm just saying,
maybe we shouldn't go there.
No, well, I'm just thinking, like, dude, our windows are see-through.
So you can wave at him,
like, you know what I'm saying, like, dude. Or when we jerk our car in front of another car, we're probably also doing it, with the thought of, like, I want you to know
that's true.
That
you're sending a message.
You know what I'm saying? I'm riding your bumper so close that I can read the back of your, like, shirt right now. Like, I can see the numbers on your radio station. Like, that's how mad you made me. Like, we want people to be aware, but why? What is going on that, like, makes you do that?
Yeah.
And that's the question, I think, that comes in relationship with for our podcast. We're raising up the next generation of men. Like, what do we do with that when it comes to our kids?
Yes.
What do we do with that when it comes to our boys? What do we do with that when it comes to us in front of our boys? Right.
When we have to be the example.
Yeah.
Or we are the example, whether we realize it or not.
Like, so this is a picture in my head. Let's just, like, let's just take a little boy and place him beside this man in Panera Bread. And have this little boy hold his hand and look him in the eye as he does that. What does that mean for this little boy? Those actions, those words, that perspective, that empty bucket. You know what I mean? And then place a boy, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like with each bird, place a boy with you.
That's right.
In the way that you, like, what does that say? What can we teach our kids, like, in a moment like that? You know what I mean? Like, do we lean down and go, that man is right, son. You don't let nobody take nothing from you. Like you earned your spot in society. Everybody else needs to earn their spot. You know what I'm saying? Or do we take the approach of, like, hey, son, you see what that dude just did right there? Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
Just don't do that.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, yeah, okay, she cut us in line, but we don't know why. We don't know what happened. We don't know what conversation she had. We don't know what happened with her before we got in the store. We don't know if she was standing here and then she went to talk to her friend. We don't know nothing. You know what? Just, your bagel's coming.
Yes.
Relax, son.
Yes.
relax. You know what I'm saying? Like what do we do? Or we place a boy next to her.
Right.
Mommy, what in the world is going on? Why is this? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like son, like this is the world we live in. Like this is what we have to deal with. Sad states of affairs for some. One of them, I'm like, dude, yeah, totally. I'd high five that dad and be like, hey, you hear your old man? Pay attention. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. Don't be that person. You know what I'm saying? And how do you get there? Let's talk about it. You know? Anyway, I can talk about that all day.
No, it's good though, right? Like I've to make it relevant to this context here, you know, it is like put ourselves in each of those positions and put our boys with us or next to us, you know, and how do we want them to act?
Yeah.
What is it going to take as a father if I'm the example in that situation or I'm anticipating my boy to be in a situation like that down the road? What is it going to take to keep him from being the one that steps out of line and says, go to the back of the bus?
Yeah.
Or if he's the one that's accosted like that,
what do you do?
What do you do? To not react just in physical defiance and, you know, let's go.
Yeah.
How do you fill up that child's bucket?
Right.
So that they see the issue isn't themselves. They see the other person's got an empty bucket.
Yeah.
That's a lot of maturity to ask for a young person. I get that. But thinking about the role that we play as fathers, boy, we can add to those buckets, or we can drain them in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat, man. In a heartbeat. Oh man, I'm sorry that happened the other day. Not that I did anything. It's just sorry to hear.
I know
that happened, and I know that's like I call it I call it slimed when we get slimed. You know, we get accosted by other people's actions. I'm pretty sure you and this young lady and that gentleman were probably not the only ones who felt that.
No.
In that store that day, you know.
I wish I had a snapshot of who all was around. I talked to a manager. I talked to 2 different cashiers. I talked to the lady. I talked to the stranger that I was meeting for the first time. Like, hey, how about this for a first impression? Let me tell you what just happened.
Right.
But I don't know who else was observing and who else was in line and what their reactions were. It just, if I could, I would enjoy having a conversation with each of them. Like, what did you see? What did you hear? What did you learn? What did you take away? How would you react in this situation?
Yeah.
You know, even what could I have done different?
I
was confrontational. I until the moment, and I guess even up to the moment that I stepped out of the way, I still had kind of a confrontational posture about me. But I don't know who was watching.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a mom with young kids in the back of the line, like, oh my gosh, this has happened. I just want to get some food, get a bagel for my son and get out of here, right? I don't know.
The words of Julia Roberts from Ocean's 11 just rings in my head as you're talking. You should know someone's always watching. Always watching. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, I've had moments like that. And man, every experience is different. You know, sometimes I'll have my kids there. I was in a parking lot. I pulled into a parking lot with my daughter, one of my daughters, and she was learning how to drive, and so I pulled in a parking lot. There's nobody in the parking lot and whatever, and had her jump in the front seat, and she started driving. So she's excited, I'm excited, and whatever, and my son's in the back seat, you know, on his phone. As she's driving like 2 miles an hour, excited because she's behind the wheel of the car, and all of a sudden a security car comes flying up and like pulls right in front of us, and he steps out and he comes over and he's pointing his finger at the car. He's pointing his finger at me. So I took a deep breath because my first reaction was like, you just pulled in front of my car while it was moving.
Mm-hmm.
I want to put my fist in your face right now. Like, what are you doing? Like, stop me. My daughter is scared. My son's like, Dad, what? Like, and so he comes, I took a deep breath and trying to be mindful, roll the window down, and he's like, you cannot practice driving here. I mean, he's yelling at me, just screaming into the car. And like, he's a bigger, like, black gentleman, like, so I want to just, because of the story that we just said, I want to put that out the way. We're both black, but he is screaming in my face. Like I am a full grown man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I am an adult, and you're talking to me like if I was like your 2-year-old kid who just tried to steal cookies from the cookie jar and broke the cookie jar. Like, like, what are you doing? And I was like, hey man, thanks for telling me, but just trying to help my daughter out here. That's really it. And he's like, well, you can, and does she have her permit? And do you know that that's illegal? And he's screaming. I was like, sir, your voice is really loud right now.
Wow.
And you're talking to me like I am a kid. I want to let you know that I am 40 years old. Like, you don't have to talk to me that way. If you would like us to leave the property, I will gladly leave the property, but you cannot talk to me that way. And he's screaming. I was like, sir, you are still yelling at me. And I'm going to go ahead and hop out of this car, and I'm going to put my daughter in the passenger seat. I'm going to hop in the driver's seat, and I'm going to pull away. But I'm going to need your boss's name, and I'm going to need his number, and I'm going to have to call he or she and let them know about the experience you experienced right here. Because you, sir, there's something going on with you. Like, I mean, I was just calm as ever. And I finally, we drove away. I pull into the business, and I get the number and whatever. And I talked with the boss and went and told the boss the story. But even after I drove away, everything in me said, you need to go back over there, drive your car into the security car. You know what I mean? Like take my boy out and my daughter out and be like, this is how you treat the punks of the world. Like, but I couldn't, because that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's not who I have made myself into. Like, I don't want that in me. And like, my kids saw it, and my kids knew I was angry. They knew I was angry. And my son even said, like, Dad, why don't you tell him off? And I'm like, son, what good would that have done?
Yeah.
What good would I have done in that situation to scream and yell at this man? Like, in that moment, I did well. Other moments, I know I've done but in that moment, I did well. But I was glad for the kids that they saw that, because they saw that, like, yeah, okay, the guy was right. We shouldn't have been in the parking lot. Fine. That's cool. But the way he addressed it was so out of turn, so over the top, and so degrading, and so humiliating. I wanted them to see it like, this is how you can handle somebody who's doing this towards you, and you don't have to react back in such an angry.
There's a better way.
There's a better way. Like, dude, and letting them know. Like, and I, there was a point where I started getting sarcastic. You're yelling and spitting at me now. Like, it's just not cool. I'm going to need you to back away from my car. Yeah. But through the whole time, I just kept a calm voice. And my son was like, I can't believe you restrained yourself from doing anything. And I told him back, I can believe that I restrained myself. I can believe that I addressed that situation like that, because this is the man that I want to be. You know what I mean? And I hope that you could take that too, that you could see that not everything has to end up with two people fighting, two people screaming at each other, two people getting all crazy. In that moment, that's what felt right to do. Yeah. And I did it. You know what I mean? I'm glad they saw it.
Isn't that real strength and real power to be able to throttle back either the temptation or the testosterone or the lethal mix of both, to be able to to be able to throttle that back and say, there is a better way. Yeah, this guy's out of line in how he's handling it. Yeah. Maybe what he's enforcing is right, but the how it's out of line.
Yeah, wow.
But I can be a person of power and strength here and still have a calm voice, still be in control, still choose how I'm acting versus just that flood of an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
And what an example.
I think it's opposite of weak.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's weak to just fly off the handle and act like an animal.
Who is in control in that situation?
You know what I mean? Like, I was just so angry. I just ball smash. It's like, dude, you're weak.
Yeah.
Like, you're weak in this area. We should probably look at that.
Yeah.
But I think strength is saying no Hulk smash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's a better way.
Like, there's a better way for this,
Thanks for sharing.
No problem. Merry Christmas.
Couple good stories. And real tie-ins to how we show up as fathers.
Yeah.
And how we help our boys to, in the future, show up as men. So, yeah, it's cool, man.
Dude.
Good to see your eyeballs.
Good to see yours, too. Thanks for sharing that story, man. That's wild.
It is
wild. I hope
you
enjoyed your bagel, at least.
I enjoyed my coffee, and I got a free cookie out of the deal.
Oh,
so
nice.
That was a bonus. And
nice.
Just another tidbit, listeners. I wrote about this on my blog, and if you're interested, you can go to daretolivecoaching.com/blogs, and you can find it. It's called Buckets, Strangers, and Coffee. And so if you want to read some more about the story, some of the follow-up reaction, the lessons that I took away from it, feel free. It's become quite a popular article. So anyway, daretolivecoaching.com/blog, and it's called Buckets, Strangers, and Coffee. All right. We'll leave it at that. Alon, thanks. It's always a pleasure. Listeners, thanks for hanging with us.
Yes.
And we'll talk to you all next time.
Adios.
Adios. Hey, listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.